welcome to the Muppet Show.
During the late 1970s and early 1980s, The Muppet Show was one of the biggest shows on television. In fact, it's one of the most popular and beloved variety shows of all time, with a unique style of off-the-wall humor that you cannot find anywhere else. One that allowed Jim Henson and his crew to take the art of puppetry to a whole new level and even set a new standard in comedy on television. The show left such an impact that all the characters that you see on screen are not viewed as just puppets, but actual influential celebrities, on top of really making Kermit the Frog a household name. It became so big that the Muppets would go on to be something far bigger than what they could put on stage, resulting in numerous of movies, spin-off shows, a ride at the Disney parks, the list goes on. But now it should be the time to look back at the show that started it all and count down which were the ultimate moments of the series. Which special guest star made the show a real blockbuster, both figuratively and literally? This won't be just for Muppet fans to remember the good old days of the series, but also for newcomers if they want to know where would be a good start to get into the madness that is the Muppets. I'm Animat, and these are the top 10 episodes of The Muppet Show.
Guest star, Liberace!
Usually, the format of a regular Muppet Show episode would be an entire mix of Muppet shenanigans and the special guest star doing a few performances. The episode decided to separate them entirely, where the first half is the usual Muppet flair with a couple of musical numbers, a veterinarian's hospital, and a Muppet newsflash, along with Gonzo determined to get his chicken act to appear with the guest. And then you have the second act, which turns into an entire Liberace concert with birds being the theme. It suddenly becomes this great collaboration of Liberace's legendary piano skills and the innovative puppetry of Jim Henson to give the music some imagery. He can go solo with a great rendition of Chopsticks, have a more serious visual representation of what he's playing like with Misty and Chopin's Nocturne No. 5, and bring in the Muppets' craziness like with 5'2" Eyes of Blue. Or in this case,
8'2", eyes are blue, but what those 8 feet can do, has anybody seen my bird?
This could be the only episode where the guest star was only given one time to shine. But with Liberace, he brings out all the rhinestones to make his moment really shine.
Finally, we've seen him do a good show.
Good. Can we please stop coming now?
No!
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Harry Belafonte!
It's actually very rare that Harry Belafonte would ever make a TV appearance. So when he got the chance to collaborate with Jim Henson on the show, he worked with the crew as closely as possible to make sure his episode was worth it. And man, did it pay off well. This is one of those episodes where Fozzie's comedy really shines. Well, not his actual comedy, but more his personality backstage when he decided to be a writer for the show.
Leggies and Junglefins. Leggies and Junglefins? Yes, Leggies and Junglefins.
All right, so my typing is bad.
His contribution to the episode would also coincide with Belafonte, who also provided some great segments, including a Muppet-style rendition of his famous Banana Boat song and a drum duel with Animal, which is like a fun interpretation of the traditional versus the contemporary. And then you have one of the most memorable moments of the series, where he would talk to Fozzie and the other Muppets about the connection we have with the world with the song Turn the World Around, all with an African theme and unique-looking Muppets made exclusively for this episode. The Muppets are normally just about putting on a show in a really goofy way, but this is one of those rare instances that they deliver a deep message, giving this episode a lot more substance than others. It's a special little moment in the show that would help turn the world around.
I have a good mind to go home.
You had a good mind, you wouldn't be here in the first place.
It's the Muppet Show with our special guest star, Mr. Vincent Price.
And
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Alice Cooper.
the reason why I put these two together is because they're both Halloween episodes. And by Halloween, I mean more with a horror theme, since you have one of the most beloved horror icons on one side, and the man who brought the gruesome and the macabre to rock and roll on the other. The Muppets are often seen as light-hearted, a bit like their friends at Sesame Street. But these episodes allowed them to go into darker themes, which allowed them to play with new comedic material and try out all their weird creatures. With Vincent Price, he would put a new spin to the formula of season 1, adding in a whole bunch of monsters that eat everything, ghosts floating all around, and interact with Kermit, Fozzie, and Gonzo in some of the best moments of the season. With Alice Cooper, he does a bit of the same thing by bringing his own monsters to the show, along with singing some of his most popular songs like Welcome to My Nightmare and School's Out. These episodes were able to deliver a new level of creativity that wasn't seen anywhere else in the show, making them stand out a lot more than others. If you ever want some good spoopy fun, then allow the Muppets to help you with two options.
Well, that's easy for you to say.
It's the Muppet Show with our special guest star, Mr. John Cleese.
This is one of the very few episodes where the special guest star would get so involved with the show that he would even contribute to the writing. And with John Cleese, he really does spice up the comedy here. Considering how he came from another popular and crazy variety show, Monty Python's Flying Circus, he really did fit in with the insanity that the Muppets had to offer, even if he didn't want to be in the show. The episode brought in tons of variety material and recurring sketches like the little musical numbers, At the Dance, Planet Coosbane, and Muppet Newsflash. But now when you include the factor of John Cleese, that's when things start to get interesting, like being a pirate in Pigs in Space, trying to help Gonzo with his long arm problem, or just having Kermit driving him crazy. In a way, it almost feels like a crossover between The Muppet Show and Monty Python. Not only are their style of humor similar, but also this episode can fit into either series. They can both be insane, they can both defy the laws of logic, but putting them together makes more sense than anything else.
Well, see you next time.
Yeah, unless I get lucky and break a leg.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Raquel Welch.
I know this is going to sound weird, but this is the sexiest episode of The Muppet Show, and it's all thanks to Raquel Welch. Keep in mind, Welch was considered a sex goddess when the show was on the air, and not even The Muppet Show can ignore that fact. Like the Harry Belafonte episode, this one looks into Fozzie, but this time trying to be more assertive, keyword being trying. But in order to get his confidence back as a comedian, it was up to Raquel to make every man in the world jealous over a bear. And it's not just there that she puts on her sexy mode. The opening number has her dancing in some of the most revealing clothes she has ever worn that's not a bikini. Yeah, on The Muppet Show out of all places. However, as much as she presents herself as a sex symbol, she also tag teams with Miss Piggy to show how she can be a powerful woman as well. It's an episode that really does cater to everybody. You got a beautiful woman to look at for the guys, the sweet moment of female empowerment for the girls, and the great Muppet humor for everyone. No matter what it is, it doesn't hurt to add a little sexiness to the show.
Have you ever thought there must be life after death?
Every time I leave this theater.
It's the Muppet Show with our special guest stars, the Mummenschanz.
Very rarely would a special guest feel right at home with the Muppets, like they would be able to blend in with the crowd. However, this Swedish theater group is not only the most unique guest of the show, but also the most creative, bringing in many of their signature sketches onto television. It's been said that there was one guest that canceled on coming into the series, and Jim Henson had to call them in as backup. If that's the case, then this actually paid off far better than what was originally planned. Although their style can look a bit different than what Jim can do, it does deliver the same form of oddity and off-the-wall entertainment. From the dueling clay mask, to the story with the paper faces, to using ordinary household objects and turn them into masks with strange functions.
Ask for silly, you get silly.
But the Mummenschanz didn't entirely steal the spotlight from the Muppets. The episode also contains some of the best moments of the first season. Sure, we all know about the love story between Kermit and Miss Piggy, but throw in Gonzo before he was obsessed with chickens into the mix, and you got what could be the funniest love triangle on television. They may not be the most familiar names to appear in the show, but they were capable of standing out more than any other guest.
That was a funny show.
Yes, it was. I wonder if they meant it that way.
It's the Muppet Show! With our very special guest star, Señor Wences! Yeah!
This one may come as a shocker, since I decided to go with this ventriloquist instead of going with the most beloved of them all, Edgar Bergen. I mean, sure, that episode was great as well, but there are two reasons why I went with Señor Wences instead. First, this is the most meta episode of The Muppet Show, since Kermit decided to devote the entire time to puppets. It simultaneously satires and pays homage to the classic form of puppetry, whether it be with the story of Pinocchio, the hand puppets of Punch and Judy, or Fozzie's marionette act. In a way, the whole irony of this episode speaks for itself. And second, Señor Wences himself. Like many ventriloquists, Wences had many characters on his show. But unlike the rest, he would interact with all of them at once, on top of delivering masterfully crafted, fast-paced comedy.
10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Don't forget.
No.
No?
No.
No?
No.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Funny enough though, this is one of the very rare episodes where the show had more than one special guest, with puppeteer Bruce Schwartz coming in for his second time to present a more serious form of puppetry. There's a massive difference between Muppets and puppets, but either way, it's hard to really tell who's the dummy between the two.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest stars, Shields and Yarnell! Yeah!
Imagine if you take the Mummenschanz episode and you elevate that into something bigger than it already is. That's exactly what you get with Shields and Yarnell. The previous episode I mentioned was already creative, funny, and the guest stars are uniquely fun. So how would you top that? Well, you take the creative bits and have it burst with imagination and innovative puppetry with bouncing birds singing Take a Chance on Me, make an entire King Kong homage with It's Lonely at the Top, or have a bunch of Smurfs honking Little Brown Jug. Then, you take the comedy and you give some of the main Muppets more time to present their shenanigans, whether it be Gonzo asking the guests for advice on improving his act, or Fozzie wanting help from Kermit on what to do with his new act. And finally, you take the special guests and have them perform an act that no one else on the show has done, which in this case is miming, and present them in a way that is equally bizarre as it is entertaining. Sure, their moments can seem weird at first, like the Wild West bit, the whole performance of Make 'em Laugh, and especially the robot couple, but once they're done, you'll find that they have some of the best parts of not only the episode, but even the entire season. In a show that's devoted to the weird and crazy, this is where the weird and crazy guest stars can have their true moment to shine.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Liza Minnelli!
In a few episodes, the Muppets would devote the entire show to telling this one big story. Rather it be the tale of Robin Hood with Lynn Redgrave, or Alice in Wonderland with Brooke Shields. With Liza Minnelli, they decided to put on an original murder mystery, where a mysterious killer threatened that everyone will die if the show doesn't close down, and it's up to Kermit with the help of Liza to figure out what's going on. Of course, one by one, many characters would end up axed off until the murder would ultimately reveal his or her identity. While it does hold the right amount of suspense that a murder mystery should, it's still a Muppet show regardless, so it also has some nice musical numbers and a great dose of Muppet humor, although maybe a little darker than usual. On top of a great story, the addition of Liza Minnelli made this episode go from really good to being one of the best, especially being this high on the list. The show really knew about her talents and made sure to present them well enough that she is as much of a star as Kermit is in here, by being a great actress, singer, and dancer. In fact, one of the best musical numbers of the series was when she performed Copacabana. Seriously, with or without big goofy Muppets, it's still a tragic story. This is absolutely an episode that you should check out before you die.
When you're down and out, lift up. I know, shut up.
Okay, so before I get into the best episode of The Muppet Show, I just want to say that I know that because I can only go with 10 in here, there are plenty of great episodes that had to be sacrificed in order to make room for the better ones. However, even if they're not the best episodes, these are the honorable mentions that are still worth watching. And they are... Paul Williams, Ethel Merman, Edgar Bergen, Steve Martin, Peter Sellers, Danny Kaye, the cast of Star Wars featuring Mark Hamill, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca, Christopher Reeve, Doug Henning, and Carol Burnett.
It's the Muppet Show with our special guest star, Mr. Elton John.
This is where the stars and the planets aligned in order to create what could possibly be the perfect episode of The Muppet Show. What other big-name singer could they get that would feel completely in place in a show like this than Elton John during the time when his career began to really blast off? When a singer is on board, it should simultaneously feel like seeing them in concert on top of getting a crazy TV show. This is exactly what you get in this episode. In fact, there are many times like the Crocodile Rock number that it could even feel like an official music video where, for once, his costumes aren't the craziest things you get to see while he's performing. However, even if they got a big superstar like Elton, the Muppets still got some time to spread some of their own comedy. This can range from Kermit and Scooter, The Swedish Chef versus a Chicken, Pigs in Space, and many more. But of course, with Elton John in the scene, don't be surprised if it must have been the craziest day for the costume designers, since the singer's influence might have rubbed on the Muppets during his time there. With an amazing special guest, great craftsmanship on both the puppets and the sets, lots of funny moments, and having an awesome time with the Muppets, it makes this the greatest episode of the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational Muppet